Well, thank you so much, one and all, for attending this evening. It's Mastery Monday about speakers versus trainers. I'm sure just reading that title alone gives you all sorts of thoughts and concepts that are running through your head. And that is exactly what we want. My name is Kathleen Davis, and I am the District 18 PQD. I would like to introduce myself to you and let you know a little bit about my journey in Toastmasters. I've actually been in Toastmasters, I believe now for just under 5 years, and I have received my Distinguished Toastmaster designation, which was the one thing that I wanted to do in Toastmasters. That was my main goal. Little did I know that this group was going to take me into so many different directions. And thank goodness that it did, because it helped me find my voice and guide me towards my profession, which I absolutely love. And that is as an instructor for the University of Maryland. I teach in their business school and the hospitality and tourism management in Hagerstown, Maryland, which I enjoy thoroughly. Even during the pandemic, I've been able to make it work. Without further ado, I would like to go into this evening's topic about speakers versus trainers. So we can go ahead and get started. Tonight, I will be covering what the difference is between a speaker and a trainer. And together, hopefully we're going to define that for ourselves and potentially others who will be able to listen to this recording through our YouTube channel. We're going to be discussing ways of training the trainer, as well as how adults learn. Believe it or not, it's different than when we were children. It is not the same, and we come with a lot of experiences. And I'm pleased to see those that are here that can help further define those kinds of experiences, as you all have your own and will be able to share with us this evening. Then we're going to talk about being in the know, as I call it, making it count each and every time, and then to do or not to do. Lots of things to think about. First, let's take a look at the images that come to mind when we think about a speaker or when we think about a trainer. Most of you might say, oh, sure, the trainer, yes, he or she yells at me in the gym every single day. I know exactly what that is. Well, in this particular instance, we're not quite talking about a trainer in the gym. Then again, let's think about a speaker. What does a speaker look like? How do they act? Can you tell the difference? Is the speaker the person just standing behind the lectern in different positions, telling you stories, making you think and feel a certain way? Are these two types of people the same, or are they different? We talk a lot about in Toastmasters, mentors, coaches, thinking and defining who and what these people are about. The same thing when we talk about a speaker or a trainer. We are taught how to be speakers, how to be public speakers within Toastmasters. But does that mean that you are a trainer automatically? Something to ponder. Let's take a look at what a speaker is compared to a trainer. Now, both of these roles do tend to overlap, and we would hope that they are different, but yet similar as they are. Both are leaders, hopefully well prepared for the role of either speaker or trainer. We hope that they've studied what they're going to be talking about. They're well spoken and they're ready to lead a group in one form or another. And then, of course, there are differences as well as how they present their information. Speakers typically are informing an audience of something. They're giving you a lecture, a story. They're trying to move you in a certain way. Whereas a trainer is really presenting more information to the participants. They're using group activities, discussions in the information they're presenting, and then hopefully they're also giving you some new skill sets to learn from. Whether the information is to children or to adults, let's think for a second how we can cross over between a speaker and a trainer. Go ahead and put in the chat box some thoughts that come to mind. What words do you think of when we say crossing over between a speaker or trainer? Sharing information. Yes, absolutely. In two different formats, but yes, they are both sharing information. Thank you, Ben. Anyone else? What comes to mind? Could be one word, could be a small phrase, anything that makes you feel something. So both have to be good speakers. Yes, absolutely. You do want your trainer to be a well-spoken person. But is every speaker a trainer? Cynthia says both are leading people or a person. Absolutely. Anne Marie says, oh, Valerie says knowledgeable and an expert. Yes, in what they are talking about. We certainly hope they are. And Anne Marie says linking both training and teacher. Ah, that leads to another question then. Is a trainer a teacher? Do we use those titles, if you will, synonymously? Or is it a skill in either direction? Just like public speaking is a skill versus training. We say that not every speaker is a good trainer. Just like not every speaker or trainer can be a good teacher, right? You have to take all of this into context as far as who the audience is. Now, what if we want to become a trainer? We've joined Toastmasters, we've learned how to be public speakers, to speak well, to be a part of our meetings, be a part of our clubs. We've gone out into the district. We've participated in Toastmasters International type events. We have learned so much about leadership in our personal lives and been able to take that into our work lives as well. But how do we train these trainers? Is that just anybody can be a trainer? Does it take time and effort to learn and understand how to be an effective trainer? So Bill says they usually have a different skill, one to teach and one to train. Yes, there are different skill sets there. Cynthia chimes in and says, take classes to be a trainer with focused topics. Focus, knowledge. And each is a unique skill. Yes, absolutely, Bill, they are. Speakers as well as trainers are different yet similar. They're both leaders. Hopefully, they're well prepared and know exactly what they're doing. They're not just somebody sitting there yelling and screaming at you to get it moving. It's not someone off the street that says, I'm a trainer, come and listen to me. And you get into the room and say, oh my, what just happened? To learn to be a trainer or to train the trainer, we first have to look at how adults learn. It is different than when we were children. And we need to take that into consideration when we ask speakers to train and to train others. How do we learn as adults? Well, I've given you a little bit of information here. First of all, adults like to understand the purpose, right? They're not just going to show up and learn something new. Well, maybe if they're bored and they have nothing better to do, they just might. Typically, they're going to be interested in the topic, and they want to understand the purpose and what you're going to be able to teach them. As a trainer, you want to be able to explain the purpose and how to use the skills that people will be learning in your class. Adults like to make their own decisions, right? They feel confident, they feel self-directed. It's important for adults to decide what they learn about and how they learn it. How can we do that? Well, we need to create an optimal learning environment for them and give them different options for understanding the material. Not everybody learns in the same way. For instance, when having a small group discussion, offer each group several different discussion topics and ask them to select one. This allows participants to feel empowered. It also enables them to select a discussion topic they feel is most relevant. When learning something new, adults like to share their experiences, right? They've been around a time or two. They have things to share that just might actually apply to what is being learned that particular day. To help accommodate this, we want to facilitate those learning types of exercises and allow those that are in the room or Zoom room to be able to express those thoughts and feelings. Very similar to applying that new information to real life situations. How do we want to do this? By giving real life examples. And nothing better when you have people who are already in the room who've had similar experiences and are able to express those in a manner that everyone can receive something from it. And finally, adults like to feel motivated, right? They don't want to just come into the room and, sit there and be talked at or talked down to. Not everybody needs a participation ribbon, but they like to know that they're being valued as individuals. They're providing valuable information to others just by their expressing their thoughts and concepts and desires. This is a way for everyone to be able to grow within this type of learning space. And typically that brings fun, right? We learn the most when we're having fun. And the fun naturally comes when you're motivated, you're excited, your endorphins are rushing, everybody's pleased that they're throwing in their thoughts, everybody's learning something new. And that all in and of itself is fun, especially for adults. What are we going to get? Some candy? you know, maybe something thrown at us, a little prize here and there, right? We like to broaden our minds. Now, before we talk about how to prepare for training, I would like to read you a little case study. And Anne-Marie has added in the chat box, before I read that, to teach adults, you have to provide various styles. Ah, yes, including PowerPoint presentations, test questions, lectures, and discussion in training or teaching lesson. Absolutely, Anne-Marie, variety is the key. You've got that right. Here is the case study I would like to read for you. A Toastmaster is presenting a training program for new club officers. The program was scheduled to begin at 8 a.m. When the trainer arrived at 7:55, carrying a large cardboard box, the participants were already there talking and joking with each other. The trainer went to the front of the room and began to unpack the box and arrange the materials. He realized there was no projector in the room, so we left the room to look for some help, returning 10 minutes later with a technical assistant who set it up. At 8:20 a.m., he was ready and asked everyone to be seated. "Good morning," he began. "I'm glad you could all come today. I've been asked to tell you about your responsibilities and duties as club officers. Since we only have 2 hours, let's get started." He stood behind the lectern and talked for 2 hours, constantly referring to his notes. And at one point, he showed a slide. "Excuse me," said one of the participants in the back of the room. "Could you read what the slide says? We can't see it back here." When the trainer showed another slide with a complicated diagram on it, the people in the rear of the room had to walk up to the front of the room to view it. While telling participants how to build membership in their club, the trainer glanced at the clock. "Oh gosh," he explained, "we're out of time. If you don't have any questions, you're free to go. Thank you for coming." He turned off the projector and began to pack up his materials in the box. The participants quietly left the room. If you would like, please come off of mute and tell me why that was not a good training session, or tell me why it was a good training session. Okay, we had a groan from one of the audience members for a second and a mute. Okay.
I'm going to answer that question.
Excellent. Thank you, Anne-Marie. So do you say that it went well or not well?
It did not went well. I think because the trainer probably knew his material, but he did not make any human connection. So all of that information did not engage the trainee. For example, when you reach in and you see it was a comfortable atmosphere, he didn't interject himself into the trainee's conversation and then in a nice, comfortable way and say, "Okay, you guys are having fun. I have one challenge I'm going to try and accomplish before we start the lesson." Some type of stuff to make a joke. He didn't make an icebreaker between himself and trainees. But the trainees, on the other hand, were nice enough to speak to each other. They already did the icebreaker for him. So he had a heads up, but he did not interject himself.
They certainly didn't need him to do the icebreaker, did they?
No.
And yes, you are absolutely right. No human connection, no feeling, no oomph. I don't know about you, but I certainly would have left that room going, I can't get 2 hours of my life back for that. What was that? I didn't learn anything and didn't take questions. Any questions? Cynthia, did you have something to add?
So he may not even know the material.
Mm,
He didn't make the human connection because he didn't want the questions. And because he was reading the material, he didn't know the material. So
mm.
if I stay in my space, speed through this, I may not get the questions. I'm not going to make human connection. I won't make eye contact because I don't know my material. I'm not prepared. And I didn't prepare before coming, or I would have known there was no equipment that I needed already set up. He didn't know the
Mm,
material.
absolutely. Anyone else? Very good.
It seemed like he was speaking at the people and not to them.
Mm, yes.
So there's no, just even something as small as that concept, kind of, I would say, turn people off.
Mhm. I would certainly be turned off. Anyone else? Well, you are absolutely right. All of you in every rich respect. And we can look at that and we can say, oh boy, I don't want to do that. Or I don't want to repeat something like that because it does not provide value. And yes, we are all here in this learning organization, and not everything's going to be 100% or pristine or perfect, but we are learning. And in order to do that, we need the tools to be able to do that. How do we train the trainer? Well, like I like to say, you need to be in the know. You need to know your participants, know the material, know your visual aids, your timing, and your environment. You want to be aware of providing key points to your audience, making sure that they can clearly hear and see everything that's being presented. Understand the flow of how things work with your audience. Maybe some of them are falling asleep. How do you
Yeah,
know if you're not making connection? Yes, did you have a comment?
yeah. One of the other things that I noticed when you were talking is I don't think he had an objective for that. He didn't know or didn't have an objective for that training session. I mean, training can encompass a broad spectrum, as you know. So I think that, one thing that a trainer, in order to be effective, is like being in the know, is know the objective for that training session.
Absolutely. And knowing not only the objective, but the material that you're going to be presenting. Let's say, for example, I'm a VPPR of a club, and I've done that for a year. I've done that role for a year. Can I then go and be a trainer at, let's say, a TLI? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe all that I know is from my personal experience. Did I learn more than that? Did I go beyond just my role and position there and learn more from, let's say, the district or a mentor or Toastmasters International overall to be a super duper VPPR that can add value and ideas to other people to get them motivated and excited? Maybe. But that's why it's so important that we need to know all of these different factors of what we are going to be talking about. You need to be able to understand the key points that you're presenting. Know those visual cues and use those to your advantage. Understand the different types of visual aids that you have available to you, like Anne Marie had pointed out earlier. Flip charts, presentations, videos, you name it. You have to think outside the box. Go beyond and not just accept potentially what you're handed to present. You also have to understand your timing. Showing up 5 minutes ahead of a start time is not enough time to set up. You need to understand your environment. Is it cool in there? Is it warm? Are the tables set up properly? And I guarantee you that will not be resolved in 5 minutes. And most likely you will not start on time. How do we teach this to our trainers? We go through these different items step by step. And we create perhaps a one-page document that they themselves can even follow to make sure that they are organized and ready to go, especially for the new trainers, those that have not had the chance to teach or educate for multiple years. Making sure that they have a mentor who can be there with them and help guide them and help them understand what happens when you get interruptions and how you can potentially veer off topic and how you've got to learn to come back so that you can finish on time. And then understanding everything that goes into actually being able to train the people that you're working with makes such a difference. Now that we're prepared, now that we know, we're in the know, okay? Trainers need to make sure that they are making it count. How do we make it count? We say each and every day, make your day count. Do something, make it purposeful. There is no difference when we talk about training. This is where you want to make sure your delivery is effective. Being clear in your communication, delivering content with confidence. Isn't that what we learned how to do as public speakers? Delivering content with confidence. You want to stay enthusiastic. Try and provide personal examples. Be empathetic to your audience. Facilitate what you're discussing with control. And keep that session moving forward. What happens if it starts to stall out and you're trying to get something together and going and you're asking questions and nobody's responding? How do you keep moving that forward? How do you get that enthusiasm going, the learning, the want, if you will? This takes practice and not always something that can be taught, but certainly something that can be experienced. You want to continue your session affirming with sincerity to your audience. Question with purpose and support the content. Not only the content that you bring, but the content that the participants bring. Just as important. Now we're making this session count. We're doing everything that we can do to get our people involved. But what are some things that we should do or not do? And as Yoda says, there is only do or not. There is no try. Isn't that the way it always is? It's either one side or the other. Where's that middle ground, right? Well, hopefully that's part of the learning process. Some of the things that you do want to do as a trainer, you definitely want to introduce yourself. Even if there's nobody there to introduce you, do it yourself. Use humor. Now, not everybody's funny. I completely agree with that. And some of us try to be funny and we're not necessarily funny. But there are things that we can have fun with and interject humor. Ask the participants questions. Get them involved. Who knows? They might bring the humor and you won't have to bring as much. Build your skills at effective questioning. Anybody can throw a question out there, right? Just like in the beginning, I can say, what does a trainer look like? What does a speaker look like? Right? Is that really an effective question? No, it's a beginning question to get you to start thinking about what it feels like to either be a trainer or to be trained. What you would hope to gain from someone. Do you even know how to ask them proper questions? Maybe bringing your questions ahead of time based upon the knowledge that you have of what kind of session this will be. As a trainer, you definitely want to share your experiences. Last night, for example, our international president, Margaret Page, gave a presentation to her old district. And it was interesting how she was able to go through some of her personal experiences combined with being in Toastmasters to how that helped mold her in her business sort of world, if you will, and how the two sort of came hand in hand. And she learned to understand through that process and through that experience what that did and did not do for her. And by relaying that experience to others and putting it in a format that folks could understand and digest step by step, it made you relate to her that much better. It made you think, I'm not the only person going through this particular situation. And it's no different in being a trainer as well. We can work on our public speaking skills and think that we can just talk with anyone or to anyone. Not necessarily. And these are some of the things that we pick up and learn over time. Another thing we want to do is definitely show respect and concern for people. If someone were to come off a camera and ask me a question and I just sort of shoved them off, I was like, oh yeah, okay, been there, done that. We've all done that. How do you think it's going to make that person feel? They're not going to want to raise their hand and share a thought, a concept. And they just might have something fantastic to throw out there for everyone to be able to discuss. If we show respect and concern for others and listen to what they have to say, there's that effective listening skill that we learn, right? We just might learn something new. Now, some of the things we definitely do not want to do as trainers, and we talk about this also in public speaking. You don't want to turn your back to the audience, right? That's the worst thing you can do. If I was giving a presentation up on the screen and all I did was point at certain items on the screen and never look at my audience, how do you think they're going to feel? They don't want to see my backside. They will get more out of that presentation by that eye contact that we have. And that we can still have even in this environment as well. We definitely don't want to take ourselves too seriously, right? If we're up there and we're just super professional and there's nothing exciting about life and there's nothing funny and I'm super serious and I know what I know and I'm going to make sure you know what I know. Nobody's going to relate to that. Nobody's going to connect. Oh, wow. Joe Schmo really kind of thinks highly of themselves. Nobody's going to connect to that. You're not going to learn in that sort of format, if you will. We definitely don't want to rush through the training. People know when you're rushed, right? Oh, I'm sorry. No more time. Let's skip that slide. Let's skip that slide. Let's move on to the next. Anybody have questions? Nope. Okay, done. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Nobody wants to feel rushed. They want to be able to absorb. They want to be able to think. They want to manifest. They want to share. Even the biggest introverts want to do that in some form or fashion. If you rush people, if you rush your training, they're not going to understand. They're not going to want to come back. They're not going to want to listen. And they certainly aren't going to want to listen to you, of all people. Remember that you cannot provide all the answers yourself. Nobody likes to know it all, right? You know everything. You have an answer for everything. Well, wow, you must be really, really smart. Maybe you're a genius. You could be. Maybe you're a genius in your field, whatever that may be. That's possible. However, you don't know everything. And there are other people in the room that have things to say, that can collaborate. And who knows, they might even correct you on one or two things. Oh my. We all can use that in some form or another. And then finally, we don't want to sit and lecture excessively. If all we're doing is lecturing and talking, don't people tend to go to sleep? I know I do. I kind of lose it after a while and I just say, oh, I can't. And then I look for things that are different. Or I start multitasking. I start writing my next speech while somebody's speaking. Or I'm working on writing out my checks to mail, to put in the mail. Or I sit and listen to my cat snoring over here in the corner. He's gotten a little quiet now, so you can't hear him. That's not very exciting to just sit and be lectured to. I would ask each and every one of you if you have any thoughts on the do's and don'ts that you've seen over the years. Please come off of mute and tell us some of those. I'm sure you guys have real world experiences where you've seen a few things. Bill?
Yes. I've been to a couple of training sessions where I've heard a lot of positive things about the trainer. And then when I got to their training session, what happened was they must not have checked out the equipment because the equipment didn't work and they didn't have a backup plan. And they got into the lecturing because without the slideshow, without the having the slides and not having any handouts or anything for the audience, not having a whiteboard or a chalkboard, it ended up being a lecture. And I walked out of there thinking to myself, this guy was not a trainer. I heard a lot of good things about him and I really was looking forward to it. But that one little thing just was a major letdown, and unfortunately to this day, I hear that he's training someplace. I just not that excited.
Yeah. Or how many of you know a trainer that does the same type of training every single time? They don't know how to switch it up. They don't know how to add something new. They don't know how to refresh. And for some reason, you've heard the same thing in every single one of their different types of training. Let's see, we have Cynthia has added in the chat, the trainer reads directly from the slides without expanding on any of the points. Oh, Lord almighty, I can't. Oh, that makes me crazy. Not bringing in real life experiences. How many of us have done that? Where you've seen the worst slides you've ever seen in your entire life. And that's all it is. Words on the slide set, that's it. And they're reading it verbatim. And they're turning with their body language of actually reading those slides word for word. Makes you feel a little stupid, doesn't it? Or a little angry. I think I can read. I'm pretty sure that I learned how to read those slides even from a distance. Thank you very much. And they're missing that big picture, right? They're missing that connection. If all I wanted to do was have you talk at me, well, couldn't I go listen to a podcast these days? Right? People are just talking. Same thing as listening to the radio. And there's no connection there. At least with Zoom, we get that one step up of people working and trying to connect. And there's ways that you have connected and there's ways that you haven't. Anyone else have an experience they'd like to share of a do or a don't of what they've seen from a trainer?
It's something. I think everyone is afraid to be corrected. We don't have all the answers. And even when you're giving a discussion, a session, a presentation, or a training, if someone corrects you, I think a lot of us get on the defensive. But the art is making yourself vulnerable to make you even more acceptable to the audience who, hey, he's just human. He made a mistake. Let's go on. I think that's what we do as giving speeches, is open up ourselves and make us more vulnerable to establish that connection with the other people, so we're not this staunch, stoic individual up on the behind the lectern giving a presentation. So I think it takes a matter of humbleness to sort of take on that possibility, because then we can only grow from somebody else's knowledge if in fact there was something we made a misstatement or whatnot. So I think a lot of trainers are afraid of that and they don't allow for that. And that's where the misstep comes in.
Absolutely, Ben. So that kind of goes in hand with, not thinking that you know all the answers, that you're the only expert in the room. And what you have to say is golden, right? It's the golden rule. However, as we're learning to be trainers and speaking with authority so that people go, oh yeah, ooh, you know a lot. Oh yeah. Somebody else pipes in and says something, and we have to allow ourselves to go, oh, awesome, thank you. Sorry, I didn't say that correctly. You are absolutely right. Thank you so much. And be humbled to a certain extent. But I like that, the vulnerability. Excellent. Valerie, you had your hand raised?
Yes, thank you. So I guess I should lower it. One thing that I've learned with the presentations that I've done is to plan for less. If the first thing you should know when you have a speaking engagement or someone, even if you're planning it yourself, if you're allotted, they say you have 45 minutes, plan to talk for not for that entire time. You don't want to plan your talk for 45 minutes and then maybe 15 minutes for questions, but plan for less. That way you can slow down, you can be with the information, you can be with the people, and you don't sound like you're just reading out, just vomiting a whole bunch of information on people. So you really want to plan to talk for less time than they've given you. so that you can, it always takes longer. And that way you can really relax and do all of the other things that are on the to-do list, on the do side, and avoid the things on the don't side.
Oh, that's excellent. Absolutely. I like that. And as we get prepared, as we said, to be in the know for what we're going to be presenting, you can practice that. You'll know what to take out and what to leave in, and what will be purposeful and what will make more sense versus just talking and regurgitating this type of information. Anne Marie?
I actually
I'm
have
sorry,
a-
Valerie,
oh,
go ahead.
No, I was done, but I have a real life example that you made me think of. I was speaking at a church about about planning for retirement and what, for women. And I looked over, I had 45 minutes, I planned for 30. And I looked over, they ran late. The church program ran very late. When I looked over, I saw someone with a sign that said 12 minutes. And then they crossed it off and I saw a 10. So I'd been talking for 5 minutes. I was reduced to 15, not 45. And then it was 12. So I knew my presentation well enough that I could skip through to the meat that I thought I could leave them with that little bit of time left. So that was, I didn't panic because I really knew my presentation that well, so.
So yeah, that's about, being prepared. Yes. And actually, Cynthia chimed in on chat and said, wow, Valerie, thank you for my lesson learned tonight. I never heard and or thought of that. And I think that was in relation to you talking about knowing your timing and preparing for laughs to be able to add in any of those changes that might take place. Anne Marie, you had your hand raised?
Yes, I wanted to add this. When I was less than 10 years in my department, I was one of the trainers. And what I will do, instead of focusing only on the lecture and the PowerPoint, once I enter the room, I will identify some employees who have been there 10, 20, 30 years. And I know they have been through some stuff. So when I'm teaching, for example, the youth support, then I will incorporate them and ask them about questions and what was their experience. In this way, they can tell their experience about the youth support. Relatable to the other trainees so that this will not enforce what I am teaching. So I tap into their expertise. Like you mentioned here, don't feel as if you are the expert because you stand up here. And I also encourage the employees, even if I am up there, you guys could be trainers too because of the fact that you have so much to give, but because of they don't know about Toastmasters. So they sit there and they don't come up.
Absolutely.
But yes, tapping into your trainees and their expertise sometimes brings volume to the whole class and reinforce your point.
Yes, absolutely. These connections, I tell you, you learn so much from other people. You really do. One of the things that Cynthia had also added into the chat, she said a do for a trainer would be the trainer allows someone in the audience to lead or drive for a moment. Timed, of course, allowing the audience, their peers to feel comfortable and relate. That is excellent. Well, I would like to go ahead and wrap this up and bring us full circle here. I want to remind you of the items that we covered this evening. And believe me, we've only scratched the surface. Oh my goodness, I could go into so much more detail about each and everything that we've covered tonight. But we at least have started thinking about what it means to be a trainer, what the difference is between a speaker and a trainer, as well as can they be the same person? And then how can we possibly train the trainers, the newcomers, those that want to train, that have the passion and the drive, they need training too. And how can we get these items across to them and not treat them like children, okay? And treat them like adults and understand that the adult way of learning is different than when we were children. And then the information that they need to know to be in the know, because being in the know gives you confidence, gives you that platform to stand on, gives you that sturdy structure for you to go forth and be confident. And then taking that moment that you have and making it count, making your words count, your emphasis, your timing, your articulation come full circle so that people understand the purpose and what they are trying to get across or help or educate in whichever form of topic that they're covering. And then the different do's and don'ts, which I know all of us could probably write a page on. If you took a do in the left column and then a don't in the right, we could probably go down an entire page together. But this is just scratching the surface on what we would need to do and how we can help others become trainers as well. As always, I like my waterfalls. And I would ask that everyone in this session, don't do this just yet, but in the chat box, we're all going to do this together in a waterfall type situation. I want you to think of something that you learned about. Cynthia, you jumped the gun. You naughty girl.
No, I wanted you to answer a question before you went into your waterfall.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let's see. Kathleen, why did you choose this topic to speak on tonight? Had you experienced a speaker who insisted they could train or teach and it was horrible?
Real talk.
That is actually a very good question. When I took on the role in stepping up for PQD in District 18, my purpose was to educate. I love to educate. And Toastmasters helped me find my voice in order that I could do what I am so very passionate about. But I didn't want to do it without coming correct, without bringing a skill set to what I was going to be talking about. And I learned that there is a difference. There is a difference between a public speaker versus a trainer versus somebody who has a PhD on the wall. And what do I strive for and what can I bring to the table in any one of those directions? And then I saw that there was a huge gap there. That while public speakers were great at speaking to people, but they weren't the best trainers. And there are so many horrible instances that I can remember in my head, both in person, on Zoom, in this country, in other countries, for the last 10 to 15 years. I can tell you all the things that I've gotten accomplished by listening to people talk at me instead of to me, to people who put me to sleep, who did not engage me, who did not motivate me, and who did not care what I was doing because I accomplished so much more. Well, having them in the background because off I went to something else. And I swore to myself, I didn't want to be that person. And how could I help others be the best version of themselves if they wanted to be a trainer? Long story short, That's why I chose this particular topic. And I am pleased that TI has now come out with additional guidelines for that. And some districts are going so far as training their trainers before they train others, which is an excellent thing to do. And hopefully we will be able to get to that point. Does that answer your question, Ms. Cynthia?
Yep. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Okay, back to my waterfall, because I always love the waterfall. Okay, don't post anything in chat just yet. All right, you've had a chance to take a look at the question. I am curious, what is one thing that you've learned from this session tonight? And if the answer is nothing, you know everything, put that in the box too. I'll take it. But this gives me that great feedback of something that I can take with myself that we can share together. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, and post. Okay, let's see what we've got. Okay, the different trainer and teacher. It makes me more aware of what I can improve in as a trainer and a teacher to be more hands-on when training, when teaching seeks to improve the knowledge. Oh, very good, Anne Marie. That's powerful right there. Let's see, Cynthia, less is best when preparing to train. Yes, thank you, Valerie, for giving us that nugget tonight. Things to look for that trainers should not do. Yes, absolutely. It's good to know both sides of that. Absolutely. Bill says, I like the being in the know checklist. Yeah, I do too. I'm actually going to put that into a handout, and I will make sure that everyone who is here this evening gets one of those handouts, because it's really a nice little thing that I've been able to put together. Ben says, use audience members to support your training. Absolutely. They're just in addition to. They are a valuable resource. Valerie says, I'm a natural teacher and I now know how to be a trainer and better speaker. Oh, I love it, Valerie. That's awesome. Fantastic. And then Mary and John, there is a need for binary training in TLI and build the pool of qualified trainers. Absolutely. And that is something that I would really like to get to in our district and move that forward. Thank you so much, Mary and John, for that comment. Absolutely. And that's something that I personally am striving for and what we can do to make that happen. As always, it has been a pleasure having you all here this evening as your PQD. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to email me. And of course, always, my cell phone number is there just because sometimes it's just easier to text me. And one last item, what is coming next? Our next presenter for Mastery Monday will be on November the 22nd from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. And that is going to be our past Chief Judge, Mr. Mervyn Bierman, distinguished Toastmaster and past District Director, who's going to be talking about judging versus evaluations. Ooh, the crowd is excited. I can see it now. He's going to help us kick off our speech contest season and give us hopefully some golden nuggets to go forth with. Once again, thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you.
Valerie
Thank
wants
you
to
so
know
much.
if you can put
Oh.
your contact information back up on the
I
screen.
certainly can. There you go, Valerie. And you are more than welcome to reach out anytime. And that is what I am here for. As most everyone already knows, you are welcome. And if for any reason you can't remember where you wrote this information down, you can always go to the District 18 website under the About Us section And I'm the person sandwiched in between our district director and our club growth director, waving my hand like this. Thank you again. That concludes this presentation for our Mastery Monday tonight. Have a good evening.
You too.